we're back with breaking news. Another awesome podcast with Dr. Pete and myself. I don't know why I like that one. I like that intro.
What's up?
Hey man, how you doing today?
Good. I'm out of town in a hotel right now, so yeah, doing
Hey,
pretty good.
another hot 20-minute segment that we do every other week talking about various stages of leadership. Today's topic I texted you earlier in the week because I did a podcast with Jason, and he talked on his podcast about mastering self-control, internal versus external. So that's what we're here to talk about today. How do we master self-control? Let's start with that. That's not even, internal,
Ooh,
external. What is self-control?
that's a loaded question right there. How do you master that? That- I think it takes years. It takes exposure. I mean, we all learn. It starts at a young age, with our parents and how we're brought up, and then
Yeah.
it kind of evolves over time with our experiences and the people we surround ourselves with, our environment, and kind of and we learn to control ourselves. But
Yeah.
self control is not an easy task. How many times have you said something when you shouldn't have? how
Listen,
many times? How many times have you've taken that extra bite of food when you know you couldn't fit any more in your belly?
listen, I was gonna say the
Yeah.
same thing. If I had self control, I wouldn't be this big. Internal self control, I need. No, but you said something right. As a young leader, I remember not having self control. I would say things and then think about them after, like, "Ooh, you're right. I shouldn't have said that." And in fact, I remember a job that I said something in, and the next day I was unemployed. And I talk about this often, right? Young leader, as a young director of quality at a home care agency, we were working on recruitment and retention, and I thought we should go a different way. And while what I was saying was correct, how I delivered it and when I delivered it was not the best. It wasn't best when our boss got us all together to talk about it. Right, there wasn't the time to do it. I shouldn't have delivered that message then. It needed to be said, but I didn't have that internal self control.
Yeah, and, it's a gradual process. It involves, first of all, you got to be aware.
Yeah.
You got to learn discipline, and over time you develop self control. You know, and it can mean a bunch of stuff. It could be mental, it could be physical, emotional, physical. Just the ability to kind of regulate yourself, regulate your emotions, your thoughts, your behaviors, your attitude, your performance,
Is it
your
learned over
performance.
time?
I believe so. Yeah, it's learned over time I believe through experiences.
Ooh. Oh
Life
yeah.
has a way. Life has a way of teaching us self control. Now you can either learn from it or not.
I agree.
Because self control is not always something that you can gain. Well, if you don't put the proper measures in place to um, regulate
So
yourself. Not everyone can do it. You know what I mean?
so
Not everyone succeeds at it, obviously, because we have crime,
mhm.
bad leaders, bad employees, all stem from some form of self control, lack thereof. Or, you know, it just
so
takes time. It just takes
so
time.
I get it. It takes time, but can too much self control be harmful? Does it lead to a lack of spontaneity, a lack of or emotional suppression? Do you think that can come from
Sure,
too much self control?
sure that does. I mean, yeah. I mean, uh, too much self control can get you to the point where you're afraid to take risks, calculated
Ooh,
risk. So if
you're
you
scared of
don't
failing.
if you put yeah, and now you're afraid of moving. Now you go into that fear of failure and fear of success and fear in general. So you have these self controls to safeguard you to cope, because you fear. losing some to some degree. So yeah, it can be crippling. It can be very crippling. But you mentioned internal and external
Yeah,
controls, right? I
yeah.
mean, as it relates to leadership, is that what you're talking about? As it
Yeah,
relates to
as it
leadership?
absolutely relate to leadership, I told you I did a podcast with Jason Stonehouse, and he was talking about controlling the internals. Right, leaders are often trying to control the external, but we rarely check our internal and try to control that. So once again, it got me just to thinking: how do we self regulate and self check ourselves? Where do you learn that as a
Well,
leader? We're judged on KPIs,
that's
which
the
are
first.
external.
I believe that's one of the fundamental things of being an effective leader is the ability to self-regulate yourself, to be self-disciplined. Leaders with strong internal controls, rely on their sense of responsibility and ethics and personal decisions to make personal discipline, like to make decisions. So a lot of times, you got to have some type of value system as a leader. How from what source are you going to lead from if you don't have a value? At some point you got to put your foot in the sand somewhere and say you believe in something,
Yeah.
and that's part of that ties into self-regulation. You know, good leaders have good, strong internal controls. That's the first step, I believe. You can't regulate others, and you can't lead others if you can't lead yourself.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
you can't. If you do it, you won't do it effectively. Because they're gonna be watching you. Good leaders govern themselves. I heard one time. I don't remember where I read it or saw it, but one person told me that I was reading it, and they said that when somebody comes in for an interview and he looks at that person, if there are, I think it was like body shaming though. It was like if you're big, then you don't have self control. Then
Mm.
that means you won't manage the company well. I don't know where I saw that. I don't know how much I believe on that, but because
Wow.
everybody have different reasons. Everybody have different reasons for their size. You know what I mean? And you got to be careful. You got to be careful about hiring somebody because of their size. You might miss out on something really good. But it was an argumentative piece that I saw or read somewhere. I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. But again, back to the internal controls. Self regulation is probably foremost in being an effective leader. Then you got these when we talk about leadership and internal controls, not self control, but internal controls. What about policies?
Hmm.
Policies shape the internal organization and how leaders control the organization or manage the organization through policies and regulatory bodies. Those
See, but
well, that's external. Regulatory bodies would be external, but internal controls would be your self-regulation, and
yes,
it may be your facility, your company policies,
yeah. I think that when you
right?
talk about companies' policies, that's definitely impacting the external controls. And as a leader, we have to learn how to control the external. We have to learn how to control the internal. But I think that we have to really be self-reflective. The only way we're going to know our controls is if we're self-reflective. So, how do you self-reflect? What is your motto, or what is your approach to self-reflecting?
I have a good colleague and friend of mine, Dr. Pettis Perry, um, and we were consulting a company out of on the West Coast, and one of the things that he said and shared with the team was that as a leader, many times you have to face the mirror on yourself and look at yourself. Because when I'm providing some discipline or corrective, not discipline, but corrective action to an individual, or something didn't go my way that I had expected to go my way, I try to look at myself first and say, did I relay that message effectively? Because if I didn't get the performance or the behavior or the productivity that I wanted, before I pass blame on somebody else, I try to take an internal look and say, wait a minute, maybe I didn't quite explain that well. Because remember, communication doesn't end with you speaking; it ends with
Indeed.
understanding. But did I
Ooh.
figure that they understand it when I said it, or what was my part in that? And even in my relationships at home with my wife and my children, sometimes they're mad or they're upset with something I did or said, and I have to go back and say, okay, what was my part in that?
Yeah.
And when your staff sees that, or whatever your relationships are, and they see that, they respect it and learn to respect you more because you're not only just passing blame, but you're also looking to see what part you play in it. And I think that's important. I think that's really important. But when you talk about internal controls, don't forget accountability.
People don't want
Holding
that. That,
yourself
that can
accountable.
be people's kryptonite.
Yeah,
That listen, that could
yeah,
be people's kryptonite. Accountability. I think that when you say accountability, a lot of people in general don't know how to self reflect because self reflecting requires you to be accountable for your actions, your own actions, and of course the actions of others. But really, what role did I play in the failure of a process or the success of a process? So, to your point, I think that one of the things that I do really, really good is self reflection, which leads to accountability. And like yourself, I'm always thinking, what have I done? Is there something that I could have done that would have promoted a better outcome? To your point, right?
right.
I spoke, but did the person understand? So what I do a lot, I did it with somebody I was on a call with today. I said, hey, can you explain what we're going to do or what we're attempting to do? Tell me what I've said. Because if you can't repeat back to me what I've said, then you don't understand what I've said, and I haven't effectively communicated that to you. So we did that, and sure enough, there are a few things left off the project. So it's very important for us to be, as leaders, accountable to ourselves, but accountable to the people we're serving. That is very, very, very important. Um, Dr. P, before we go on, I want to switch back over to a commercial, and we'll be right back. Hey, did you hit that like button yet? That subscribe button yet? What if you didn't hit it? That's how I get views. I need the views. Sound Leadership with DJ invites you to like and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. If you haven't, hit that bell, hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified of every single episode that we host here on Sound Leadership with DJ. Have you done it yet? All right, now back to this episode. What'd you think? What'd you think about that, Dr. P? Putting our own commercials in the thing. So,
Yeah.
back to what we were saying. We were talking about self-control, we were talking about reflection and accountability. How can leaders learn to hold themselves accountable? Is that a trait that they learn? Is that a trait that has to be taught to them? Talk to me about it.
Oh, that's a difficult one to answer. But I know from my perspective, number one, I have a mentor. I have a couple of them. And I have people in my corner that are always pushing me. Like, I'm starting a business. What did you do when you talked to me today? It was like, okay, when are we looking at getting started? What's the latest you can get started? When do you
Yeah,
think you're going to get that done? That's accountability. That's
yeah.
somebody who's thinking beyond themselves. And I've put that energy out there that I'm going to do something, and
Hmm.
now I'm being held accountable to get it done. So a lot of times, mentorship and the people you surround yourself around will help promote that accountability that you need to succeed. There's very seldom do lone wolves make it.
Ooh,
you know,
yes.
you, you know, and so you need. I'm not talking about crabs in the barrel. I'm talking about people that are on the boat, but also watching you and helping you row the boat right, but not poking holes in the boat while you rowing. They're poking holes and you're going nowhere.
Yep.
We're talking about people that are there. It could be family. It could be professional mentorship, professional people, good friends that are going to push you to what. And it could be staff. It is staff. Staff members hold you accountable, and I want them to. Like, right now we're in a COVID outbreak.
Hmm.
I want them to be able to say, "Hey, Dr. Pete, you forgot to put your mask on." And I not get offended, because I need you as much as you need me. We in this together. We're in a COVID outbreak. We got to protect each other.
That's that accountability you were just
So
speaking
it's
about.
that accountability. So, yeah, and so when you put those things out in your meeting, like my meetings, when I put those things out, they're gonna hold you accountable.
Yep.
If you're not in uniform or you're not wearing the proper uniform, staff is going to be the first one to say, "Oh, Dr. Pete, you're not in uniform, or you're not doing this, or you're not doing that." They'll be quick to get you. So you almost got to toe the line, as we used to say in the Army. Make sure um, that you're operating at a high standard, because
Yep.
your staff indirectly or subconsciously are going to hold you accountable. and,
So
and I think and I think that's what it takes. It takes people that are genuine, um, to hold somebody else accountable. I have several people. I surround myself around people that are pushing me and propelling me. It's a push pull relationship.
yeah.
I'm not sucking them dry. You know, they're helping me. I'm helping them to some degree or some form.
So the whole premise of this episode is self control, internal, external self control, right? And I want to pick your brain. I got to ask you: does the concept of self control reinforce individualism at the expense of collective responsibility? Right? Because we're talking about self control. But at which point is it self control internal, or is it a collective responsibility? Right? As a leader, you lead a team. So that you as a collective, does it depend on the situation? What are your thoughts?
It starts individually. It starts with the individual. You have to exude self control, and be self accountable for your actions before you can do anything else. So I think it does start off individualized,
Hmm.
right? I have 14 department heads. They're all individuals. And could you imagine what kind of chaos it would be if they didn't have self control, some degree of self control?
Yeah.
What kind of damage they would do to the team? And if they don't have self control, well, that's why you're there as the leader, to provide the guidance and the resources and the support to help them get them to where they are. That's where emotional intelligence would come into play, where you learn the weakness and the strengths of your team. When I was at another organization, we all did personality tests. We
Yeah.
scored each other on our personality, and then we learned a little bit about each other, and so we were able to strengthen the weak areas, and you know and hone in on what we needed to work on, and gave some grace. Because a lot of times we don't give grace. We be like, I want this, I want that, but hey,
Ooh, he's speaking
you,
facts.
you need to know your team and what they're strong in and what they're weak in. So again, there goes that word again, accountability. That's how we hold each other accountable. I firmly believe that. I can
You
be,
know,
and my staff knows I can be impatient.
we want stuff now.
I want it
Yeah.
yesterday.
You
What are you
know,
doing? But
but there's that self control, right? We have to learn to have self control,
Mhm.
because to your point, right? Sometimes as leaders, we understand the importance and the seriousness of it, but our team may not. So the team just puts it on the plate. There it goes back to that communication, right? Did we communicate that this is a now thing or a later thing? How did we relay that message? Um, so
I've done a drill many times where I have people close their eyes, and I take a piece of paper, give them all a piece of paper, and I tell them to close their eyes, and I'll tell them to fold the paper in half, and they'll fold it in half. And I say, fold it in half again, and they'll fold it in half. And I say, one more time, fold it in half. And they'll open it again. They're open after they're done. I say, okay, open your eyes. How come your paper doesn't look like mine? And they're like, well, you didn't tell us which half you wanted folded.
yep.
Did you want it folded vertically or horizontally? And I was like, oh, so what you're really saying is that my instructions were not clear enough to get the productivity or the result that I wanted. That's what you're saying. And it's like, yeah. I said, okay, well, what's your onus? What is your ownership to
Yep.
this communication process? What could you have done?
Ooh,
And
100%.
they will say, okay, well, I guess I could have asked clarifying questions. Absolutely. So the communication process with a leader and their staff, followers, whatever you want to call them, is a two-way street.
Hmm.
I'm giving out information, but I need you to get clarity too. I need you to work on clarity. But it is our job as a leader to do that closed loop communication. Did you get what I said? What did I say? What am I asking you to do? Those kind of. This is not to be rude, but it's just that this is very time sensitive, and I want to make sure that we do it right. Do it right the first time. You get it. And so uh, uh, I did it. I did it with them Monday. Monday I did a training on the Eisenhower matrix.
Yep.
And it could be a bit complicated when you talk about important versus urgent, urgent versus important. It's really important, but not urgent. It's really urgent, but not important. It's not important or urgent, so it got kind of complicated. So I made the grid in front of them, and then I had them, well, then I went back. Okay, what does this mean right here? How would you apply that? How
Yeah.
could you put this into practice? How are you going to put this part into practice? So I can make sure that they understood the concept. The first grid, do it now or do it soon.
Yep. Self
The
control,
second grid, we got to,
accountability.
yeah, the second grid, we got to schedule. The third grid on the bottom left, hey, we might have to delegate this to somebody else. We don't have time to do it. And the fourth grid is, it's not going to move the bar. Get rid of it.
Listen,
Don't do it at all. So I explained that, and then they were able to. I closed that loop and said, okay, now you explain it to me. You explain it and how you're going to apply it. So in communicating with our team, and you can't hold somebody accountable for something you haven't taught them or appropriately
agree.
communicated with them. So you got to make sure that you communicate those things. Remember the five dysfunctions of a team by Patrick Lencioni, that book. The first dysfunction is the absence of trust, right? The second one is lack of fear of conflict. The third is lack of commitment. And the fourth one is inaccountability. We can't hold them accountable, right? If they have an absence of trust in the team and they fear conflict, which causes a lack of commitment. If they're not committed to the goal or the vision, then how can they be accountable? Does that make sense?
Oh, I'm there.
And,
Listen, we
and
gonna have to
so,
take we gonna have to take it on to another and maybe our next one. I know we do this every 2 weeks. I'm thinking about delegation or what you just mentioned in the book, but we have hit our 20-minute mark, Dr. Pete. Tell them how they can
oh
reach you.
man,
And look, we it's quick. Look, we had 24 minutes already. He's supposed to be 20-minute talks. People hear him on their lunch break. They stream us on iHeart, Alexa, YouTube, so many different platforms, right? TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We are everywhere. Simply search Sound Leadership with DJ and hit that subscribe button. But these are 20-minute talks so people can just hear our thoughts on leadership. But Dr. P, how can they reach you?
well, I have a YouTube and it's thriving. I got over 400 subscribers.
You are banging that
Oh,
out, man.
yeah, over 100 videos on all things leadership and life coaching and goal setting. I can be reached at I'm Dr. Pete. I am DRPETE. And that's the same for my TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. So I'm Dr. Pete. I am DRPETE. And if they need help with coaching, a leadership coach, they could reach me at .com. I'm drpete.com. So
Man,
that's me. I enjoy what I do, and I love helping people. My vision is to lead leaders, and I'm still led. Just because I'm leading leaders doesn't mean I'm not being taught either. It's leadership is is a lifelong journey, and so I'm still learning to lead myself.
Listen, you and I both, as we
It's been
as
30 years.
listen, as we go down this leadership journey, I learn from you, you learn from me, we learn from each other, we learn from others. And so that's Dr. Pete, right? Please follow him on all socials. If you've not followed him, this is the time. Pull out your phone, follow him on all socials. And I am DJ with Sound Leadership with DJ. Once again, you can find our podcast on all platforms. Simply search Sound Leadership with DJ. You can just say that out loud in front of Alexa, in front of your Siri, whatever you have. Just say Sound Leadership with DJ, and I'll come playing. If you don't know, we release episodes every other Tuesday. And once again, we are on your favorite platforms. You can follow me at Your Healthcare Consultant. My content focuses on risk and consulting for long-term care, as I am a registered nurse and a licensed nurse home administrator. Just like Dr. Pete, he is a licensed nurse home administrator and a RRT, that is a respiratory therapist. We do this every 2 weeks where we come on, we talk about a random topic. So if you'd like to give us a topic to talk about, you can email us at soundleadershipwithdj@gmail.com. You can PM me. You can also PM Dr. Pete a topic, and we would love to bring that on and talk to us. If you want to be a guest, if you want to banter back and forth with me and Dr. Pete, you can do the same. You can PM Dr. Pete. You can PM me. You can email me at soundleadershipwithdj@gmail.com. Until next time, remember to lead with purpose.
Thanks for tuning into Sound Leadership with DJ. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. Share your favorite takeaways with a friend or colleague. Leave a review and let us know what you think. And remember, leadership is not just a title, it's a choice. Choose to lead with purpose, passion, and impact. See you